we have not only the Syrian refugees, we have the Palestinians who are coming from Syria, and right now all the Palestinian camps in Lebanon, they are overcrowded. Before the Syrian crisis, they were overcrowded. The Palestinians couldn't build or reconstruct or making their houses bigger because they are big families. Now they are receiving also Palestinians and Syrians coming from Syria, and the situation is very horrible.
The number of refugees crossing the border every day, it depends on the situation in Syria, sometimes between 300 to 1,000 every day crossing the border illegally through the fence. So it's a huge problem. Talking about Jordan with the poor resources, natural resources, we have a problem in water, the capacity in public services like hospital and school. It's a big.
In Italy, now we are facing a very hard situation due to a lot of people who are coming from the north of Africa, particularly from Libya. Thousands and thousands of people every week reach the Italian coast, the south of Italy, particularly Sicily, not Lampedusa now because the center is closed. These people come mainly from Syria, from Eritrea and sub-Saharan country. And now our country is living a very difficult situation due to the lack of reception system. In Italy, we don't have many places where to receive these people.
So we are on the street in the sense that migrants know we can help them on any matter, and they come to us in our churches or by word of mouth eventually, because that's what happens. So we help the domestic workers, mothers with children, students, etc. And that's at one level. We help them with food, clothing, shelter, medication and household goods as much as we can with the limited resources we collect, which we collect from donations and events that the good churches come up with from now and then. I've got a case where the person was in Cyprus married to a Cypriot for 20 years, a South American. The son even served in the Cypriot army and has still been refused nationality. So if her marriage breaks down at any time, she will be deported, having lived there and brought up 3 children in Cyprus. So the injustices are large, and we try to help by moving then with the other NGOs who are involved in this field. The Ombudsman, who is a great help on all these issues and can see some of the facts in these and tell us and help us with the facts in these cases. And also on another level we go to the EU and the UNHCR. First of all, we are asking always for money if we can get any, but also we help them with their reports as what is really happening in Cyprus.
Well, it's a quite bad situation. Many people won't see Morocco as a country of transit to go to Europe. But now the trip to Europe is very, very difficult and dangerous. So many people are just stuck in Morocco and they have to survive in Morocco, a country where they cannot work. They're victims of racism and they're suffering a lot of difficulties, and it's very difficult to have to think about future for them. They cannot go to Europe. It's very difficult to go back to their countries, so they're just stuck and waiting. Okay. Generally, people are coming from Algeria, and they're coming through the north of Morocco, and they're living through 2 Spanish cities in Morocco, Ceuta and Melilla. So they're crossing with a boat, or they're crossing swimming, or they're crossing the fence of which is the frontier between Morocco and Spain. It's very dangerous. I think the great majority of migrants in Morocco are men, young men, but we can see more and more teenagers. They're traveling by themselves, or they lost their parents during the journey, or women who left their country alone maybe, but now they have babies because of violence, sexual abuse, and now they're in Morocco with babies, and it's very difficult to go ahead with children and young children. And they're victims of a lot of trafficking, and it's the big issue in Morocco because you have no protection for these people.
General picture. So they come from sub-Saharan countries, most of them. Few of them came from Syrian, but not directly from Syria. They stay in Libya, and they were in Libya. Syrians were in Libya, and the war began in Libya, and they come to Algeria. Few people who come from Palestine too, but very few. So those are people who came without visa. But there is many others who come with visa and come from Asia and as workers, so it's not the same problem. So in our center we receive most of the sub-Saharan people come from Cameroon, Côte d'Ivoire, Congo, Nigeria, few from Nigeria, and now we begin to receive the people who come from South Africa, very traumatic. They have many traumatisms, and we receive non-accompanied minor now. It's a new thing in Algeria, new phenomenon. They began to come 1 year ago, like that, something like that, and because. For the story of Algeria, there is a traditional migration of young people, but they don't stay. They just stay a few months to have money and come back to their home. But now it's a new phenomenon. They want to go to Europe. They come from Côte d'Ivoire and Cameroon and Mali too, because of war. Cameroon because of school. They have no school in the country, so the parents said try to go and have a better life in Europe, and they try because the roads are open, so it's easier than in the past now. But they don't know that between Algeria and Europe there is a sea, and before coming to the north of Algeria there is a desert. First difficulties for them, but when they cross the desert, after that they can't go back, so they continue and try to find the way to go to Europe, but usually they are stopped in Algeria because to go to Tunisia now it's difficult because of this social situation, and to go to Morocco it's difficult too because there is a lot of trafficking of people and violence too in Morocco. So they have to stay a few times in Algeria and thinking about the future. It's difficult for them. They had a dream, but it was stopped. And for young people, teenagers, it's very difficult.
Okay.
Compared to many countries around the world, and particularly in Europe, Sweden have one of the most humane and generous refugee and migration policies. Traditionally, Sweden had most of the migration to Sweden had been refugee migration, and it has increased. Recently, again, the numbers are going up. Last year around 54,000, and this year expected to up to 100,000 people will be seeking asylum in Sweden. More than half of all the Syrian asylum seekers in Europe is in Sweden, and it has taken, and they are all granted a permanent residence permit, Syrian asylum seekers in Sweden. At the same time, Sweden has one of the most progressive labor migration laws, which came into effect in 2008 in Sweden, which allows any category of labor in Sweden, whether it's low skilled or high skilled, as long as there is an employer and they are willing to employ, then they can get a permit in Sweden for 2 years. It can be extended to another 2 years, and after 4 years, possibility for permanent residence permit in Sweden, with the right to family reunification from the very beginning for a labor migrant to Sweden, which is one of the most generous and most humane labor migration policies in Europe. Most refugees arriving in Europe would like to go to a country like Sweden. because of the granting a status, and there are basic minimum rights are granted to every asylum seeker in Sweden.
So they're coming like from all over the world, or what?
They come from all over the world. We do have people arriving from all the crisis areas from the world, from Eritrea, Sudan, Somalia, Afghanistan, Syria.
We believe, as Caritas, but also the Italian government believes, that the European Union have to support Italy, but not only sending money, but also in other way. For instance, to implement a way to sharing these all problems coming from North Africa, Middle East. We know that, for example, the experience of burden sharing could be a good experience in order to distribute all these people, not only in Italy, but also in the North European country, where these people want. Not only Italy is living this situation. We know that in Greece the situation is worse, probably. Also in Spain is very difficult. But we had the opportunity to know that in Germany, in Sweden, the situation is very hard. They have thousands and thousands of people who are arriving from Syria, and they are trying to implement a good reception system, the way to save this person. But yes, at the end, probably we have to find a European solution, not only a national solution.